What's up, guys? Lucky Locks here. Welcome back to another prediction video. This is going to be for LFA 172, Davis versus Chapolin from Phoenix, Arizona. This should be a fun card. A smattering of good fights on this offering from LFA. So I'm excited to talk about them. I know also this video is a little bit late this week. It is Friday, basically Friday afternoon where I am. And, that's a little bit late to be recording this, so I do apologize for that, but better late than never, as I say. So with that out of the way, let's start talking about the first fight on the main card. The first fight on the main card is actually now Livio Ribeiro versus Chaz Dunauer. This really just recently got added to the main card, so I sat down to do this video today, having done zero tape on this, because I literally just found out it was on the main card right now. So just as a gut lean, I'm familiar with both of these guys. We haven't seen Dunauer in quite a long time, in almost 4 years. Livio Ribeiro, I feel like, is the better fighter in this spot, but to be honest with you, I haven't done any tape. He's also a really big favorite, so I'm leaning the Ribeiro direction, but I haven't spent any time looking into this one, so I'm just going to move on to the next. Next fight, we have Cedric Catambo versus Brett Cooper. And Cedric is 3-0 in his MMA career as a pro with one no contest. That no contest was a accidental groin strike, less than 1 minute into his last fight against Austin Verms. And it's too bad that we didn't get to see that play out. Austin Verms is always an interesting style matchup to see how guys deal with him, which is basically to say we see if they get armbarred by him or not. But so we didn't get to see that one play out. He is from the Congo, but living in Arizona, getting training at Arizona Combat Sports and Fight Ready. So you'd love to hear that, and he's got a good training setup there. I'm expecting to see some wrestling out of him in this fight. Brett Cooper, also fighting out of Arizona. He's training at the MMA lab. That's a great room as well. Kind of all the big Arizona gyms are being represented in this fight here. So he's 2-1 as a pro, Brett Cooper, and, he's been a bit of a kill-or-be-killed fighter over the course of his career. Usually his fights don't go very long. He either kind of gets guys out of there early or ends up getting finished himself usually. We can see 12 of his amateur bouts on Tapology. With the amateur stuff, you never know if there's, been more than maybe just what's listed there. But we can see 12 fights on there, and he has an 8-4 record of those 12 fights. All 8 of his wins came inside 2 rounds, and so did 3 of his 4 losses. And as a pro, both of his wins have been knockouts. His one loss, he was submitted in the first round. So this is an interesting fight, man. This should be a fun one. I think that Catambo has the better process of the two fighters. I think he can work some wrestling here and be successful. So we'll see what happens in that one. I am leaning towards Cedric as the favorite here. Next up, we have a pretty good fight between Akhtamov and Keith Dawson. And this fight was supposed to feature the standout Arizona prospect, Ray Waters, but Ray Waters actually fell out of this fight, and now Miroslav Akhtamov has stepped in. He is an Uzbek fighter now representing UAE, similar to what we saw with Hamzat Chimaev, and he's actually gotten some training in with Chimaev, from time to time. He trained with, the whole Serra-Longo group that traveled to UAE for Sterling's camp against, I think it was Dillashaw. Did he fight Dillashaw in Abu Dhabi? Whenever he was over there, he was training with that whole team. And he's also been to Kill Cliff for some cross-training before, so, this guy definitely is doing all the right things to put himself in a good position to succeed in this game, with the rooms that he's in. And it's been working so far. He's 5-0-1. He fought his last 2 fights in UAE Warriors, won both of them. He's going to be facing Keith Dawson here, who is 4-4. He's going to have the benefit of a full camp for this fight. He is a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. He has, more pro MMA experience. And he's finished all 4 of his wins. He's also been finishing all 4 of his losses. And despite the short notice, I feel like Miroslav Akhtamov is the better fighter here, so I'm going to be picking him to win. Obviously, he's a really big favorite, so nothing groundbreaking there. We're going with Akhtamov. Next fight up in the featured slot, we have Prasendo versus Nikita Kulshin. Prasendo is a 9-2 fighter out of Brazil. He's making his LFA debut here. Not a ton of notable names on his resume thus far. He's treating most of these guys accordingly. He's got 7 finishes out of 9 wins. And he's coming up against a pretty tough test here in Nikita Kulshin, who is a very exciting prospect from Russia. He's now training in South Florida at Kill Cliff. And like I've said a few times, that's absolutely one of the best rooms on earth, training-wise, in my opinion. If you don't know about Kulshin, he was a very hyped amateur prospect. He was a world champion in pancration and MMA in the IMMAF circuit. And he was also the Russian national champion. You know all the stuff, right? He was checking all the boxes at that phase of his career. Now he's turned pro, training at Kill Cliff. He's 4-0. No big tests yet, to be fair. We really haven't seen him in there with anybody that was expected to give him kind of a tough time. I would say this is definitely his toughest fight to date. I still think he has what it takes to pass this test here, though. He's a huge favorite, so obviously it's hard to be enthusiastic about that price. I'm not saying go bet it. I'm not betting it. But it is going to be a fight that I have earmarked to watch, and I'm excited to see what happens here. And if he is able to deal with Prasendo accordingly, I'm excited to see what's next for him. So this should be a fun one, but the line's pretty wide. It's basically unbettable on the money line at this point. In the co-main event, we have Ivan Tena versus Larion Douglas. And, Ivan is a promising prospect from Arizona, so he's got the home game here in the co-main event. I'm sure he'll have a ton of people out to support. He's training out of the MMA lab, great gym. And he has an engineering degree from Arizona State. He's a smart guy, and he's shown to be proficient in striking and grappling. He has good wrestling, and he's not even 25 yet. So, he's got a game where this is a guy that's, a really intelligent fighter and going to be improving a lot in between fights, in my opinion. He is 6-1 as a pro with 5 finishes. He finished Timothy Kawamba in round 1, who we saw in Contender Series. That's a win that's aging very well for him. He beat Riley Wiseman on LFA in his last fight. That was a nice win, too. Coming up against Larion Douglas here, who is an 8-5 fighter out of Brazil, a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai, and a Parana State champion in Jiu-Jitsu 5 times. Kind of a deceptive record. I think he's better than he looks on paper, definitely, when you watch him. And he has been in there with some good talent, right? Like when you look at his losses, Saifullah Jabrilov, Shepe Mariscal, James Gonzalez, and most recently, Isaac Thompson. So it's not like he's losing to guys that you're like, how could you possibly, it's not that type of a situation at all. The concerning thing, though, is that 4 of those 5 losses have come by finish. So, that makes it a little dicey, in my opinion. So overall, I feel like this line maybe is a bit wide, but we have a homegrown Arizona prospect with a lot of potential, training in a great room at the MMA lab here, and I'm not going to stand in his way. I'm picking Ivan, but I would be a little bit cautious at these prices. The main event of the card is for the LFA flyweight title, featuring Cody Davis and Eduardo Chapolin Henrique. 2 high-level guys here, 2 guys deserving of this shot, and should be a good fight, a high-level fight, and a fun fight as well. So Cody Davis is 8-1 as a pro. He's currently riding a 3-fight win streak, all of them coming by finish. He has good wins on his resume. Aaron Lafarge, Peyton Persinski, Joe Camacho, Igor Siqueira. His loss came to a very good prospect in Mark Climaco, who is fighting out of AKA. And, before Davis turned pro, he was an MMA state champion in California as an amateur. He's fighting here in Arizona, so he's pretty close to home. And, if anybody does have the home field advantage here, you'd have to assume it's Cody. He played some Division III baseball in college as well. That's a fun fact. So he's a well-rounded athlete and a very well-rounded fighter as well. He's a great wrestler. That's the primary tool that he utilizes in the cage. Chapolin is going to be on the other side, and he's 11-2 as a pro out of Brazil. He has 8 finishes out of those 11 wins, 4 knockouts, 4 submissions. His 2 losses have come against familiar names in Cleison Rodriguez and Davi Bittencourt, or Davi Costa, depending on what day you catch him on. He's a striker. He's a former Brazilian champion kickboxing twice. Chapolin is an exciting fighter, but as a really exciting fighter, he can be a little bit wild at times. He has good takedown defense fundamentals, but during some of these wild exchanges, he can allow opponents to get onto his hips, and I think he'd be hard-pressed to get through this fight without being taken down by Davis once or twice. I also think Davis, though, when he does get to the ground, is going to have difficulty finishing Chapolin. Chapolin is a crafty guy. He was submitted once a number of years ago against Cleison Rodriguez, but, with as good as Davis's wrestling is, I'm not sure if his submission grappling is quite as advanced. I feel Chapolin is going to be the better striker here. Both guys have good cardio. Given 25 minutes to work, both of these guys are bound to have success. But like I said, I feel like Chapolin is a little bit better in the striking, has kind of deceptive power, good volume. He's accurate, he's precise. Davis may be the speedier of the 2 guys, though. He has good in and out movement on the feet, which helps him in both the striking and grappling realms. Over 25 minutes, I think that this fight is much closer than the odds imply. I don't really see Davis finishing this fight early, and at the current odds, I think I'd rather be on the side of the underdog in Eduardo Chapolin Henrique, but this is going to be a really good fight. Both of these guys are exciting prospects, and this will be a fun way to end the card with a high-level fight in the main event. So thank you guys for joining me today to talk about these fights. I know it's a little bit late this week. I apologize for that, but yeah, thanks very much for watching as always, and I'll catch you on the next one.